Hello, and welcome to the Lunar Podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about baseball and profits. One of my mottos is that if you understand baseball, you understand life. And one of the reasons that I like to overlay baseball with like mysticism is that it combines two worlds which are not so separate. Baseball is there is mysticism in baseball, in the whole economic function of it. But it is something that is of interest to the general public, right? It is America's favorite pastime. So one of my missions is to make mysticism America's second favorite pastime. So in baseball, you have what they call a 40-man roster. So there are 40 players on the team. So these are the players that they travel with that are on the team, right? 40 players on the team, right? Now, out of those 40 players, only a few of them are going to be the starters. Now, how is that relevant to us in our life? Baseball is a billion-dollar industry. How can we relate to that in our life? Well, we need to gather up our own team, right? We're experiencing this life, this reality, and we need coaching. We need a team. We need a whole system, right? So we need to gather up our muses, right? So just like baseball organizations, they're trying to gather up the best players that they can possibly gather up. We, ordinary people like you and me, we're trying to gather the muses, characters, authors, philosophers, psychologists, theologians, from whatever field or walk of life, fairy tale writers, from wherever it is that we can get them, we want to gather up our muses, these characters or individuals or authors that inspire us, right? So one of the things that we have to do is define the term muse and how I am employing it in this presentation. So a muse, it comes from Greek mythology, and are these the muses are the individuals, the spirits, the gods. These are inspirational figures that inspire writers, musicians, poets, any genre of creativity, right? For example, Hermes Trismegistus from ancient Greek and Egyptian mythology, he's considered a muse. Buddha from the East, he's considered a muse. We can include Jesus Christ in there as an inspirational figure. And so this is what I mean by a muse. And what's interesting is that the word amusement, right? When you find something amusing, is something that acts as a muse, So that is what I refer to as a muse. So the idea here is that we should be able to at least gather 40, right? Have 40 sort of credible individuals that are a part of your team that you trust, right? Now this is going to be different for everybody, right? So on an individual basis, you have to gather your top 40 that are like, these people know what they're talking about and they have some really good advice that I resonate with. I need to keep them around and follow their podcast, their writings, their blog, their YouTube channel, whatever method or platform it is that they use. Like, these are the 40 people that you follow, right? You don't need to follow 1,000 people, right? You follow the people that are necessary for your life, right? Now, 40 people, that's a lot, right? But in our metaphysical field, you want to have like your top 10, the guys that you sort of rely upon. Not even 10, having 10 muses is still a lot, but the more the better. And that is what one of the sort of goals of the Lunar Academy, the the current format in which I'm presenting these ideas is to introduce these muses, right? And one that I'm working on currently is Enoch, the prophet Enoch, the lost prophet. And, one of the projects that I'm working on is to develop a series of presentations, either in essay form or video form or podcast or a combination of all three, ideally. I think that would be a combination of all three, and have like a total of 7 presentations that present Enoch as an ally, like for us to use as a muse, right? And to hopefully introduce him and have him sort of be incorporated in your starting team of the muses that inspire you. So if you're an artist, a musician, or poet, or any genre of creativity, you want as many muses as you can possibly wrap your head around, right? Now, and a really interesting comparison to baseball is like, in baseball, if you have like one really good player, only one team can have him, right? So, for example, Aaron Judge, which supposedly is what people say is the best player in baseball, who plays for the Yankees. Only one team can have him, and that is the New York Yankees, right? He cannot play for any other team. Same thing with like let's say a college baseball player who is like the best player in college, right? Only one team can have him, right? When he gets drafted to the major leagues, only one team can have him. Right. Now, in the metaphysical field, right, if you have a muse that is inspiring, it doesn't just belong to one particular team or group or organization. It belongs to everybody. So someone like Enoch can be brought into the creative field, into philosophy, into whatever genre it is that you're in, or if you're more into theology, any theological genre, you can bring him in there. If you're a Catholic, you can bring him in. If you're a Protestant, you can bring him in. You can bring him into those teams and inspire it, right? In the metaphysical field, the muses, they can be shared. Different teams can have them. Another really good example is Buddha, right? The teachings of Buddha are not just for the Buddhists, right? They belong to the world. And anybody that is interested in Buddhism can study that. And there are some churches, some Protestant churches that incorporate, those kinds of teachings in their ministry, right? So, that's a clear example where Buddha can be brought into the team, right? So that's another a person that you can have in your 40-man roster, right? So you can have him as a starter, or you can have him on the bench. So in conclusion, the idea that I'm trying to present here is that there are plenty of muses out there that we can use to inspire us, to open our hearts, our imagination. And the first thing is that we need to become acquainted with them, and then to evaluate them and to see if they are compatible with your team, right? And if you like them, you can incorporate them and add them to your team, right? And they're not exclusive to your team, right? Other teams or other genres can use the same muses. So that's what's really interesting in this field of the metaphysical, spiritual domain, right? It gets really it's way more interesting than baseball. So this concludes my this week's episode of the Lunar Podcast, and see you on the next episode.